All right, we're here. Ladies and gentlemen, we are coming at you live from episode 8 of Life on the Rocks with your host, Connor Larocque. Today's featured guest in the hot seat is my good friend, Tristan Ritchie. How you doing, my man?
Awesome. How's it going?
Doing very good. It's an honest pleasure to have you on this show. For anyone who doesn't know, Tristan Ritchie is a millennial investor. He's actually a real estate guy within the city of Sudbury. I want to start this off. Tristan, what got you started in the real estate market, getting into real estate?
Well, I gotta say, first of all, was investing in my first property. When I was in third year university, I bought my first rental through David Kurt. So that's the guy I work with, Team Kurt. And he approached me. He's like, Tristan, like, you know what you're doing. Since I've been a young kid, I've been following my dad around to all his meetings, going to see the banks for his financing, going to his showings, going to when he's doing deals. So it really got me into it. So then Dave asked me, he's like, Tristan, do you want to become a real estate agent? And I said, yeah, like you get first dibs on properties, kind of not first dibs, but you get to like see them right when they come out, so you get to learn more about it, right? So
no, absolutely. It's kind of funny. From the first time I met you, I probably met you, like I've known you for years, but we actually worked together at TD Bank, for anyone who doesn't know out there. And Tristan was always saying, like, I can't wait to get done school. I want to get into the real estate market. We talk a lot about education, right? You talk about formal education, self-education. You're obviously a self-taught man. Obviously, you see you go out there, you promote good content. The first thing I want to hit on for anybody watching out there is, obviously, the real estate market in the city of Sudbury alone is very saturated. There's about 350 brokers, or agents, I should say. And if you look at Tristan's actually done a phenomenal job separating himself from the pack. What is it, do you think, what do you have to do differently to kind of put yourself out there so that more people are seeing you?
Well, that's why one of the reasons I joined Team Kurt is because Dave also does a lot of great things, and mostly is the internet. Obviously, we're getting to that time in our lives where everyone's on the internet. Even your grandparents are using Facebook, Instagram, and all that. So where you really get a lot of eyes. So when you're trying to sell a property, you want a lot of people to be able to see the property, right? The more people, the more eyes that are interested in this property, there's more chances they buy the property.
Absolutely.
So you want to get that house in front of as many people as you can. So I think social media is a great platform for that. So some of the older techniques where it's just putting it on MLS, maybe the paper copies, like you're hearing print is dead all the time, because it kind of is. Like no one really prints things anymore, right?
Yeah.
So everything's moving towards the online. So what we're doing is we're taking great advantage of Facebook ads, live videos. I started doing live open houses, and now a couple other agents are doing them, which is awesome. So it's easier for people to see them if you can't make it out to the open house. So just little things like that, and we pay for boosting, and we do a bunch of things like that.
No kidding. So that's it. So it's one of those type of things. Go the extra mile for your client. Put yourself out there, and that's what's going to separate you from, I guess you could say, the masses or groups.
Exactly.
That's what you see in other successful agents, and then the ones that I guess you could say fail. I mean, that's a tough gig, especially when there's so many people. So moving forward here for a second, you're going on about social media. Print is dead. Do you believe that? You're starting to see, obviously, I'm of the belief that the print is dying out, obviously. You see so many articles online, you can print them for free. You don't have to buy the paper. We literally get news right in our fingertips. How do you leverage that? Like, what is it for you exactly? Like, how do you specify? Do you have certain markets you want to tap into? Or maybe quite possibly you're like, well, this is what I want to do. Since you're a young investor, you have 2 properties, right? Mm-hmm. As well, like, how do you tap into that social media market? What are some tricks for people? I would consider Tristan a social media actually expert. If we put it that way, he's went through the courses. We own a company together, actually co-founded one called Social Rise Revenue Marketing Agency. How do you do that? Like, how do you distinguish yourself on this online platform opposed to real estate? Like, what are some of the key things we got to do?
So it's actually not as hard as people think, really. Mm-hmm. There's some cool sites online that you can use to learn about it. So Udemy is one. You can buy pretty much a class or a course that you take. They give you exercise and everything. So I took a few of those courses. And I'm just learning on my own, right? Testing. So you do a split test. You try 2 different pictures, see which one works the best, and you kind of teach yourself about this. But really, it's the advertising on Facebook that's probably the biggest and most important one. And you can put as little as $2 if you want, and just do a little test run, see if that's working out for you. You can get super duper specific. Like, you can go down to a 2-mile radius. You only want to advertise to people that are working in the Tom Davies Square. You can do that kind of thing. So if you're aiming for, if you have a little coffee shop right by Tom Davies Square, maybe you want to try and attract all the people from Tom Davies Square.
Absolutely.
Do a little 2-mile radius ad, and there you go. Then you can get some people. So that's pretty much how you can really take advantage of social media, and you link all the accounts together, which gives you better SEO for your website also.
So SEO, for anyone who doesn't know, search optimize.
Yeah, sorry.
All right, go, yeah.
Search engine optimization.
There it is, right there. So that's good. Okay, so I think that's such an important factor, especially in today's society. We have so much noise. Even us right now, we're probably on a live video. There's still so many noise. You're scrolling through, you're like, oh, I've seen this photo 50 times, but you just keep doing that thing. So it's a matter of breaking free. I think not enough people actually realize. I was talking to a friend of mine, and he went on about there's 3 things you can do. You have organic followers, then you have the ones you borrow, and then you also have the ones you buy. I think a lot of us aren't tapping into the buying and the borrowing of those followers or those likes. I guess that's the likes.
Well, you can't buy followers. Those are fake.
Yeah,
followers.
yeah, I don't want. Yeah,
that doesn't work for you.
No, exactly. That's not what you want. You want to build an organic following. For you, so I mean, if we're going to talk about a lot of this stuff, who influences you? Like primarily, so in real estate, I mean, it's pretty open. There's a lot of leaders within that field. Like who influences you? You study these guys like Cardone, or you study these guys like Gary Vaynerchuk. You like Tony Robbins. Like we went there one time. Like who do you like to follow?
To be honest, my dad is my biggest mentor for real estate investing.
Mm-hmm.
He's the one who gave me the confidence to pretty much buy property. It's not as tough as people think, but it's such a big purchase that you just need to understand that you can just go for it and buy one if you want and learn a little of the ropes and all the tricks. So I did learn that from my dad. When I started, kind of like a lot of people, I used to watch Gary Vaynerchuk and Grant Cardone and all them, but now like I'm starting to believe that understand what they're saying, like just put your mind to it, go for it. So I kind of don't spend my time watching their videos because it's kind of like I feel it's like wasting my time. But I still believe in what they're saying. So for people that need that confidence, need that boost, they got some great ideas and tips. But other than that, I try to just watch more educational videos or podcasts, which there are a lot of great ones out there that you can learn, and read books. I love reading.
Absolutely, yeah. Readers are leaders. That's the joke, I guess you could say. So would you argue that execution is probably the most imperative thing in terms of business? You know what I mean? It's being able to execute. We can all start businesses. We can go get our master business license from the Ontario government.
$60.
Exactly, literally $60. I've done it 3 times. But would you argue that execution is probably the most imperative thing? If you look at all these guys like Tony Robbins, Gary Vaynerchuk, Grant Cardone, all your top leaders, they all predicate, i.e. assert that idea of having to execute. Is that what makes you successful? Because when I look at you, I look at a lot of other people's, millennials primarily, and what you're starting to see is a lot of excuses. And I'm not trying to be rude, but a lot of the time they're like, well, I can't find this job. And I was on a video the other day, and it's like, well, you can't find that job. Well, what exactly are you going to do? And that's where we start. It's like, how are you going to frame this? What exactly are you going to do to push you forward? So would you argue that it's execution? You have to be able to execute, i.e. strategize, which will in fact lead to your success. Is that what makes you successful?
100%. Execution, just doing it, is what's going to get you to the next level. And it's getting past that fear. Like I understand, and there's a lot of people get anxiety now. I've had it, like it's understandable. Like you get nervous in front of an interview. Before we started this, I was a bit nervous, understandably, right? And you get that from everything you do.
Just kidding. No, I'm kidding. No, go ahead. I'm just kidding.
I'm human. And everyone else is too. So you're gonna be nervous when you're doing things, or before if you have a business idea, let's say, before you launch it, you're gonna be nervous. You're gonna be like, what if this doesn't work? You're gonna have those doubts, but you just push through them. And you gotta think in the way that for an example, the last house I bought, I had to, because I work off commission, the banks don't use my income and whatnot, so I had to wait a little bit, but I partnered with someone to buy the last house I bought. So with my partner, I convinced him that if we lose money on this house, when we're rich in 10 years, we're gonna use that as a story and laugh about it.
Exactly.
So I was like, if we fail on this, which the chances are really slim investing in real estate if you do it the correct way, I was like, if we do fail, we're going to look back, like in 10 years, we know we're going to be rich, that's our goal. In 10 years, we're going to look back and tell people the story like, oh, when we were young, 23 years old, we bought a house and we lost a ton of money on it, ha ha ha, like we learned a huge lesson from that. And I think that's one of the best lessons you can make is by failing, and that's what everyone always tells you. So there's just different scales of failing, so you can start businesses that have like little to no initiation costs or whatnot, and the risks are way lower, so just go for it.
That's it. No, there you go. That's the motivational thing. A lot of people are like, well, what do I got to do? They're trying to think of all these recipes and things you can do. And I'm of the same belief as Tristan. It's like, just put yourself out there, come out swinging. I like to say that everyone that watches my stuff, it's like, come on out swinging. I think that's one of the most important things Tristan just hit on is the factor that how do you manage risk? And a lot of people that you see are highly successful, they don't really say it as risk. It's like, well, it's very calculated. So it's one of those things, I think, just getting over that barrier and saying, okay, this is what I want to do and this is how I'm going to create it. So I want to touch base on this then, if we're going to transition in. Take for instance the millennial generation. I always like to pick on millennials, being that I'm one of them, right? What do you find is one of the biggest problems with our millennial generation? And not taking a critique, but just something that being that we're in this market, we are those type of people. What do you think is the biggest problem, and how do you think we can battle through that problem? That's a deep question, but I mean, I think we can unpack it. I think it's a great question.
Okay, that one I might have to think about a little bit.
Think about that.
But what I'm seeing a lot is, like we just said though, is basically just going for it, doing it. Focus, I think, is really tough right now because of all the social media. Like even myself, sometimes I'm on my computer and then I get I'm in real estate, right? I gotta always be on my phone.
Always,
so
yeah.
I'll get I'll go on Facebook to start doing a Facebook ad or something, and then I end up on my timeline, and like 2 minutes later, I'm like, holy jeez, like I've just looked at 20 Facebook posts,
Yeah.
like, watched a video.
Next thing you know, he's buying something. Next thing you
Yeah,
know,
yeah. So you get stuck. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So like, where does it end? Then you go like, okay, I gotta check Instagram now or whatever. Like, post another picture. So it's hard to stay focused with all that stuff going on. So what I've started to try to do is put my phone in sleep mode for like 30 minutes at a time. So maybe I won't be able to answer that phone call then, but I'll just get them back later.
Exactly, yeah.
But it really helps you focus and get a lot of things done at once without being distracted. But that's tough. Like even walking around, like I rarely ever walk around without having my phone out just because there's always something to look at. But sometimes you just got to be in that mindful state. And actually that's one of the books I'm reading right now.
Okay.
On mindfulness, because it's one of my problems.
That's one of the most important
Yeah.
things. Yeah, so I would argue actually probably the same thing, that it's a distraction issue. It's like, how can we stay focused on something? In my whole life, same idea as you. It's like, people always tell me, you gotta get focused, you have to get specific. And I'm sitting there, I'm like, I can stare at this desk for 5 minutes, and it's like, hey, no, that's not focused. It means, having something done at the right time, getting specific on it, and heading forward with clarity. I think that's one of the most important things.
Agreed.
What do you think? So if I was a young millennial out there, let's say, okay, since I'm taking a hit at our generation in a positive way, but if I was a young millennial and I didn't know what to do coming out of university, what would be some of the advice you'd give? Just an idea. Is that too hard? Like, is that a tough one?
Coming out of university, or
Yeah, coming out of university, you don't know what you want to do. That's
like
a
job.
Yeah, for looking for a job.
Yeah, actually, I had one of my friends. He asked me to talk to his little brother about this because he's looking for a job. And what I was told by my parents when I was looking for a job when I think I was 15, and they told me to apply everywhere, so McDonald's and all that stuff. And at first, I thought like I was a little bit above that, but I guess a lot of people do think like that.
Yeah, it's wrong.
But then I realized like it's a job. Even at working at McDonald's, you learn so many of the ways that they train their employees. They're an established brand and they know how to do business, right? Because they've been in business for so long. So I looked at it as a learning opportunity. But also that when I was applying for the jobs, my parents kept telling me like, call them back, annoy them. And I was like, oh, I don't want to be that annoying guy that's looking for a job. But then I put myself in the shoes of the employer, and owning a business, you kind of understand this. You're like, if you have 3 resumes in front of you, and 2 of them dropped off the resume, they talked to you a little bit, and then the third guy, maybe he has a little bit less education, but he's calling you every 3 days saying, oh, did you look at my resume yet?
Exactly.
Are you going to hire me? Do you have a spot left still? Like, I'm obviously going to hire this guy. Like, he's motivated. That guy wants to work.
Absolutely.
So if you look at yourself from the other shoes of the employer, they want that. It's not annoying them. It's actually making them want to hire you.
It's showing you're hungry.
I think that's, being hungry, going for it, the hustle, that's what it is.
It's the hustle. It's all about that hustle game
Yeah.
in today's generation, I guess you can say. Yeah, I find that's one of the most important things. It's a market I want to tap into, and you hit it right on the nail. It's like getting that hunger, showing that initiative, taking the extra step. It's the same thing. I use this analogy so many times because I've seen it. I lived it. I was going to go to law school. Everyone had the same resume. We all had an 80% in school. We all had the similar score on the LSAT. We all were part of the same law groups. So what's going to happen when you're flipping that resume in? They're going to look, okay, I've seen this kid, I've seen this. You need that distinguishing factor. And in terms, sometimes you might not have a very good distinguishing factor, but it might be your work ethic. It might be like they always say, or hard work trumps talent. I think that's when it comes into play, when it comes to that kind of stuff like that. So transitioning here, or go ahead.
I agree, that's what I was saying.
No, absolutely, I find that, especially with our generation, I think a lot of people are looking at the wrong lens. They're trying to say that, we're in one of the craziest times in human history. It's so difficult, which it is. I agree. There's a lot of noise out there. A lot of jobs are getting cut. But on the contrary to that, I think we live in one of the greatest times in human history.
A lot of jobs are getting made.
That's what I mean, exactly.
People need to fix that technology. People need to create that technology that's stealing the jobs. But I think it's all evening itself out.
Exactly. It's that market that's changing. Anticipate where the market's going to go. And I think that's another thing with us. I know we're young and we're coming out there, but one of the things I've always admired in you, Tristan, was the fact that you're not scared to put yourself out there. I know we know each other for a few years, but that's the thing. We teamed up at one point because you were able to push through things. People are sitting there like, oh, Tristan's promoting this, he's doing this. But at the end of the day, you're living what you want. You're doing what you want to do. You're living that dream. And a lot of people are